What's up, guys? Before we jump into it, we'll be live with the Black Ops Cold War beta over on my Twitch channel just about all day. So if you'd like to see what's new firsthand and come chat COD, I'd love to see you out there. Links in the description below if you're interested. But back to the regular scheduled content. The beta for Black Ops Cold War is now live for PlayStation 4 users who pre-ordered, pre-purchased, or got a code elsewhere for the beta. And along with today, we got a lot of new changes to go over. While we talked about some of these changes we knew were coming in today's launch of the beta a few days ago, this far exceeded the expectations in my books of what we'd end up seeing in relation to the game from alpha to the beta build and where we are now. Today we're going to run down everything that changed and let you know what you need to about Black Ops Cold War's beta, whether you've already jumped into it, you're waiting to either later today or throughout this weekend, or if you have to wait until next weekend with Xbox One and PC. There's a ton to go over, so as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. What are you looking forward to the most out of these changes? For me, I gotta say it was the FOV slider. That's an absolute game changer in my opinion. But as well, do be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Black Ops Cold War as we round into an awesome couple of months here. But anyways, let's jump into it. Let's start out with what I think is some of the most important changes to the game in terms of a gameplay feel with weapon changes. Firstly, one thing that was introduced that you don't even see in-game but outside of it is the gunsmith. There was a big overhaul here for this, and when you unlock create a class at level 5, you'll likely notice that there is a ton of work done to the details of the gunsmith, that if you go and investigate a little bit of what is on offer, you'll see this right in front of you. Now, in this new build of the beta, there's an option to hit the right trigger and bring up details on weapon attachments and what it does for the weapon at large, and these are insanely in-depth. Now, right now, I don't know if we can consider these 100% accurate. I'm sure there's going to be some testing done here to validate them or discredit them, but when you consider that the stat bar graphs in each game prior was basically arbitrary and was unrelated to the actual weapon stats, to see them broken down into quantifiable numbers and real applicable changes to your performance, that's incredible. Every single weapon attachment that alters these stats in some regard has these details listed, so I'm in love with this change. Recoil was also adjusted within the new update as well, with new weapon systems in place for fire animations and recoil. There are reworks to balance on all the recoil patterns, impacting the balance of weapons across the board, and there's also a full touch-up on animations of all weapons that have been done as well. Aiming down sights has been adjusted as well, in which there's now a new weapon rendering technology for more realistic perspectives, and it also smoothed out all the in and out ADS transitions. Weapon tuning in particular had a few things, though not many were mentioned by name. The AK-74U was one of those, however, with changes to the recoil and ADS times both being increased, having been made to the AK-74U. The LMG ammo capacity was increased, and there was others listed but not mentioned specifically. It actually just said that other weapons were changed. Snipers, though, were also adjusted in a likely controversial way, adding aim assist on snipers for controller users to combat the crossplay that is coming. It added several precision aiming adjustments to make the sniping feel more fluid. The sniper glint now showcases more frequently to allow players to see incoming fire, which kind of answers my question from the alpha on if it was random if you'd see it or not, to which it kind of seems like it was beforehand. It adjusted the ADS times on snipers and also requires higher shots on your target for one-shot kills, meaning that if you were aiming at, say, the stomach and you got a one-shot kill last time in the alpha, you'll now need that in the upper chest. Grenades also saw a reduction in the fuse time for the frag grenades. There are some planned adjustments for throwing speed, but that's going to be something that happens at the launch of the game. And then weapon audio, closing out our weapons and lethal changes here with this. We saw that weapon audio was actually kind of overhauled with this. It added bass and punch to all weapon sounds by adjusting master EQ and compression outputs. It added 3 new presets to the audio settings: the Treyarch mix, the bass boost, and the high boost to suit player preferences. It redesigned several weapon audio layers, correcting audio decay playback, and also added blending for interior and exterior sounds, seemingly that occlusion here that we saw within Modern Warfare, which honestly I think is pretty nice. Even though there are still some audio things that need fixed in terms of, say, footsteps, you can absolutely discern if you're in, say, a cavern in a building as opposed to out in the open within Modern Warfare. So if it's anything like that, that's an awesome change. It also polished reverb across all maps as well. Now, as for some new features within the Black Ops Cold War beta, firstly, that FOV slider, the one that I'm really excited here for. This gives you the option to go from either 60 FOV, which is tighter than default, or all the way up to 120, which is almost double default, which is 80. This brings one of my favorite aspects of PC over, which I guess now the next thing would be the frame rate, but we'll have to see what next gen is capable of and what that can manage a little on down the line. One thing, though, that I'm not entirely sure of, and it could just be a thought that I had that maybe turned placebo and I'm kind of sticking to, is that I think FOV actually may be glitching aim assist. I don't have any hard testing just yet to back that up, but it definitely feels scaled, if not non-existent, at the 110 that I usually play at. Now, I mentioned this because this has actually been an issue before, where when I think it was Warzone, there was an FOV bug whenever you got up past an FOV of 103, it broke aim assist and you wouldn't have any. So I'm wondering if that bug was returned here in a new game with the same developmental systems and the FOV slider. I'll keep an eye out on it. I'll have to test it further, but that's an initial hunch that I had during my first few games. But the FOV slider is absolutely beautiful. Love that thing. The new ping system also was introduced as well, in which it allowed for locational pings across all MP modes, including objectives, loot, locations, and enemies for teammates to use during a match with the D-pad by hitting left on the D-pad, or if you are on PC as of next week, or you're playing on mouse and keyboard right now on PlayStation 4, that'll be something that it's bound to Z by default. There also are alternate button layouts like bumper ping and bumper ping tactical, which you can choose in your gameplay settings of the menu. There also were the ability to turn off, or I guess toggle, different HUD visuals, such as your ally health bars, the compass, the hit marker crosshairs, the player names, and other things alike. That can be found in your settings as well. Nameplates of players saw an adjustment for how those displayed. Dead zones, or rather the minimum input threshold, was adjusted as well, to which it expanded the options to reduce the minimum stick input threshold or dead zone to 0. Now, this is something that they note is that 0 is only recommended for advanced users, and there could be something like stick drift that occurs if you take that a little too low. That part in particular, though, is dependent upon your hardware that you use, if it's a bad controller, whatever it may be, but that's something added as well. Progression is also something that is new here within the beta. During the alpha, we ended up seeing that, of course, we had everything unlocked, and it seemed like you could actually rank up, but you didn't actually progress in number. So the icon would change as the more you played, but the number did not. That was still always 1. But with the progression of the beta, it seems right now we can go up to 41, though the level cap currently today is set to 16. That will increase tomorrow and then more throughout the weekend and the second weekend of the beta. But you can see everything that is available in this beta build, including new weapons, streaks, and all, and when you can unlock them during the beta weekends, again, depending on when that level cap ends up increasing on each of those times. Kill Confirmed also had an adjustment where there's a score limit decrease. Actually, the data from the alpha showed that Kill Confirmed was ending on time limit way too much, so they actually changed that from the max values down to 65 for this beta build. As for some core changes, we saw movement actually got a little bit of an adjustment as well, with the core movement integrating updated locomotion animations and systems for walking, jogging, and sprinting. It also slightly increased the acceleration when moving from a standstill. For sprinting in particular, it reduced or removed several sprint penalties that could leave the player in a state of reduced sprint speed, and this also results in more opportunities to use the sprint takeoff feature for a quick burst when going to a standstill or walk to a sprint. It also increased the time it takes to ramp down from a maximum to minimum sprint for a smoother change of pace. It also slightly adjusted the camera bob during sprint for better alignment in movement animations, and disabled the field of view increase when sprinting, so it should be a more smooth experience when sprinting all around. Sliding, though, is also something that was adjusted as well, in which they said it slightly reduced the slide speed, which I'm not sure how much I believe that, because it still felt like I was zooming when I slid, but it increased the minimum amount of time that a player must take for a sprint before sliding to align with a better max sprint speed, and that also means that you can't immediately slide from a near standstill. It also addressed slide canceling, which was something that was big in the alpha as well. As for some score streak changes, we saw new streaks actually introduced, like the counter UAV, or I guess counter spy plane, but also then probably one of the biggest things is that there was actually a fundamental change to score streaks overall. The system that we saw still is in place, but the values and how you obtain them are different. So for example, the streak values firstly were adjusted, in which the RCXD was 600, now it's 800. The spy plane was 800, now it's 1000. The artillery was 1900, now it's 2300. The napalm was 2400, now it's actually reduced to 2100. The air patrol streak was 2750 score, now that's 3600. The war machine was 3150, now that's 4000. The attack helicopter was 3750, now it's 5000. And finally, the chopper gunner was 6000, and now it's 8000. Introduced between some of those on the lower end and the higher end are things like the spy plane for 1200, the sentry for 2000, and then the napalm was reduced as well, so it fits now in that lower category. Now, why this was done was because there was an increase to the objective modifiers, making objective and streak play much more important for streaks, meaning that those handouts that people thought was going to happen are much more limited now to the lower tiered streaks, as opposed to things like the chopper gunner. That already small chance that a complete noob getting 1 or 2 kill streaks getting handed a helicopter throughout one of the games is now made even smaller. But for those that are more skilled and can streak out, These players have this combated again by more score and objective modifiers, but also the cooldowns on streaks are actually shorter than they were in the alpha, going from a 90-second cooldown to 60 seconds in all cases except for the RCXD, to which that stayed the same at 90. There were some audio changes as well from the alpha to the beta. The weapon audio that we previously discussed is of course included in that. Footstep audio was adjusted, in which now crouch walking now functions as near silent movement for all players, even if you do or do not have that ninja perk. ADS crouch walking makes that player's footstep audio even quieter than regular crouch walking, so enemies should not be able to hear players who are crouch walking outside of extreme close quarters. Also, while Ninja is equipped, core movements such as sprinting, jogging, and walking are now greatly reduced in volume and distance by roughly 50% compared to the beta. ADS walking will also provide a significant stealth advantage when using Ninja, so a little double down there as well. There was a hit marker audio that now adds for fatal and non-fatal hit marker audio, so you can distinguish the two. There's score streak audio, in which the overall general score streak audio was polished off for plenty, and I'm hoping that applies to the chopper gunner. Haven't played enough games to get that just yet to confirm or deny, but I just remember that was incredibly loud, so hopefully that was adjusted. Then the spy plane audio was also something that was adjusted even further, with reductions in the spy plane's locational pings, but for the first time in a Black Ops game, the spy planes are directional and locational based on where an enemy is and where they're swept by the radar, allowing for even more accuracy. Spawns got a little bit of a tuning here in terms of various number of spawn fixes across all the maps, though the one that really stuck out to me was the one that pertained to Armada, in which it said it tried to reduce the amount of times players would spawn at their home ships to keep players in the action, to which I didn't really see any change in that from the games that I played. Every death that I had still resulted in a respawn at the main home ship and took about 15 to 20 seconds to get back into the action again. I hadn't played Crossroads, but I also felt Cartel was that same way also, where you just spawn at the very back end of the map. Now, I guess my only ask here is that we have some sort of flag choice spawn like Modern Warfare's Ground War, or some sort of squad spawn mechanic, so that you don't have to be in the back of the map every single death. That makes for some severe spawn trapping at that point with the right lobbies. Then we ended up seeing some changes for vehicles, in which tanks had a reduction in health to make launchers and C4 more effective, and it also reduced the deadliness of the tank shell's splash damage. It also reworked the bullet damage mitigation for tanks to provide a more consistent experience across all weapon classes, meaning you should be able to shoot at those tanks and take it out a little easier. There also were a ton of other bug fixes, which is where we'll round out this video, but things like character models were fixed out. The AK-74U having a reload animation that would appear to skip is no longer the case. The RCXD, hilariously, they were just like, you guys can't have any fun apparently, because they said they called in the fun police to address an issue that allowed players to ride around on a teammate's RCXD, to which they also just said sorry. So I love that sort of almost pettiness. I don't know, I just got a kick out of that one. The gunboat and the wake runner on Armada ended up glitching out, flying players out into the ocean if you use those. That's been fixed out. Motion blur is something that is now finally working properly, which is beautiful. I definitely felt off during the alpha, and I hated that I had to change it every single game. There's a window on Moscow that was fixed out as well. Mantling was fixed out in some cases, and a couple other bug changes were made as well. But then finally, some stability issues were addressed, in which game crashing shouldn't be as much an issue as it was in the alpha. But that's the changes here, and again, a ton of stuff that was up on deck and discussion here for the changes from the alpha to the beta. So I'm impressed with how much has actually changed and what we can see here with the beta. So that's where we're gonna wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this here? Are you looking forward to these changes? Are you looking forward to jumping into the game? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. We're getting all things Black Ops Cold War, Modern Warfare, and Warzone, all that good stuff, COD related. We got you covered here on the channel. So if you're interested, hit that subscribe button. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get kicked outside of YouTube. Probably live on both those. So if you guys want to strike my conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.